as Eli Manning stays on his feet. It is caught by
Tyree. All right, welcome back to another episode, Catch the Moment podcast. It's your host, David Tyree, where we're going to get great done today. We're going to take you on the process. We're going to take you on this journey. And today I got an exciting new friend. Dan, welcome to the table, man. It's the orange table. It's good to have you.
Nice, man. Thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
We had to swap out, man. You have a powerful story in of itself, one that I know so many people have kind of gleaned from, but it's at the same time, we share some things in common and just being overcomers. But before we get to the depth, and you know, I got questions in light of some of your past experience too, but always got to start with the moment. So where were you when you first saw the helmet catch? What were your thoughts? Any stories? Any fun little takeaways from that moment?
I don't know if you know this, but I was in the stadium.
Let's go!
I was there.
February 3rd.
I was with my brother-in-law. We had season tickets for a long time to the Giants, so we sat together.
So y'all old Giants Stadium official.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, those are the good old days.
We love the old stadium, man. But yeah, so we when you guys made it to the Super Bowl, we were like, how do we not go?
Yeah.
You know, and we were like, I don't know if we can afford this between the tickets and the flights and all that, but we just felt like, man, this might not happen again. So
it was a drought. It was 17.
Need to be there. We need to be there. So we went. We ended up sitting. We were in the upper deck. You know, not great seats, but we were in the building. We were next to Brandon Jacobs' high school coach.
Nice.
Actually, that's who we sat next to. So he was giving us a little inside scoop during the game.
That's my locker mate.
But the helmet catch, like I remember at halftime. First of all, we were just so excited that we were still in the game.
No doubt.
You know, and we were like, we just want it to be close. Keep it a game. Keep this interesting the whole way through.
No doubt.
And then the fourth quarter started, and we were like, screw that. They need to win, man. Yeah. They need to win. And in that moment of the helmet catch, you know, we couldn't really tell what happened. You know, so we didn't know how great the catch was.
Sure.
You know, we went wild just like everybody else. And we were like, all right. But things just kept moving. We didn't even see, you know, the replay on the Jumbotron.
So you had like my perspective.
Yeah. So we didn't really, until that night when we were back at the hotel.
Yeah.
And, you know, watching the replays on SportsCenter or whatever, that was the first time we realized what actually happened.
Man, we actually got the same story. That's fantastic. We got the same story. Of course, that's the question I get asked the most. I mean, people they have amazing experience and takeaways, but that was how it was. It was just, I knew I made a great catch. Yeah. But I had no clue with the helmet. It's in the middle of a 2-minute drill. I got to see if I'm in and out the game or not. So it's always good. I'm glad you was in the desert. You know, they call it Miracle. Got lots of names, but Miracle in the Desert is definitely fitting. All right, so we got to get into your resume speaks for itself and your experience in television, entertainment, dance, etc. I mean, the first question that comes off to my brain is, you know, we're probably in the same generation where there was I call them barriers to entry into so many different, you know, like now the internet has killed the barrier to entry in any industry. So in light of you kind of being in a fixture in choreography and dance and what that's done for so many different people from influencers to business, what's your thoughts on it? I know everybody's excited about it, but how do you wean out the really good people? You know what I mean? Like, because I kind of appreciate the old days where you had to be approved by somebody.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts on like both sides of it?
When I was, you know, like 20, 21, first getting started in the business, like so many businesses, it was all who you knew.
There you go.
Right? So there was so many good dancers, good choreographers, all that kind of stuff. So it was just about networking and taking class and meeting people. And, you know, 90% of the jobs that you would get hired for, you got hired for because you knew the choreographer or you knew someone else in the room, somebody involved. I was never the best dancer in the room, ever. I was never the best choreographer in the room, ever. Like, not even close.
Humble statement reality, right?
Well, it was the truth. I was reliable. That's what you knew you were getting. You knew you were going to get the guy who was going to show up on time, who was going to work his ass off, and he was going to get the job done.
I hope they caught that right there.
Well, so if you needed somebody who was going to be crazy flashy and doing flips and all that kind of stuff, I was not your guy.
Okay.
You know, and you weren't going to hire me.
Yeah.
But if you knew what you needed and a guy to learn the choreography and to be able to follow along, hit the right mark, look at the right camera, all that stuff, that's why I got hired.
So, and as you said, it was about who you knew. And some things still hold true to get today, but obviously anyone with a camera could create opportunities for themselves, anyone with a phone, and i.e. the internet, which is super cool because at the end of the day, even with platforms like podcasts, they exist for all of us. So definitely no shade, but it does say something about the pre-social media guy who was out there getting it. See, really out here in the streets instead of the cyber streets.
Well, listen, it's way different now.
Yeah.
Like, I still have friends who are, you know, probably in their late 30s or so, who are still in the industry in LA, still trying to dance. And, you know, they call them the kids. The damn kids, the damn kids. You know, because so many get hired because of their social media following and things like that. They're good dancers, but, you know, the producers are looking, well, how many followers do they have on Instagram? How many followers do they have on TikTok? Let's hire him. Instead of this guy who's been in the business killing himself for years, they're going to hire the kid who's got the social media following, whatever, because it's like a built-in audience. And it's annoying. Yeah. But at the same time, I get it.
I totally get it. You know, that's me. That's me and you. We got a lot in common already. You know, like your approach, because even when you talked about what set you apart and what created avenues for you, it was reliability. That was me. I'm the old 76 Chevy. You know, like there was nothing so sexy about my game, especially as a wide receiver. And as a special teams player, that's the guy who's willing to do what most people aren't, right?
That's it.
So really neat, man. So like, what was an opportunity that you saw that really cemented some things for you about what you could do?
I was at NYU, college student, studying journalism, but dancing at the same time, dancing on the weekends, teaching some classes, meeting people in the business. And from teaching class, I became good friends with this guy who had just been hired to choreograph for Britney Spears. And he was, now this was Britney Spears, like Baby One More Time, like right in the beginning, right? First thing, 1999, long time ago.
Yeah, it's two different Britneys there, you know.
So, yeah, this was pre-going.
Oh, yeah.
You know, so he hired me, same thing, all who you know, right?
No doubt.
So he said, hey, do you want to dance? I'm like, yeah, let's do it. That'd be awesome, you know?
Yeah.
And that experience, going to LA, rehearsing with all these dancers from the business, getting to know some of them, then back to New York. We're going to dance at Radio City Music Hall, you know, going through the rehearsal process, all of that. Yeah. And then the actual performance on the MTV Awards live on television. And that's when the MTV Awards were like an event. Oh, God. You know, that was like, they were a thing.
Yeah, people don't even know how big of a deal MTV was. It was
no, it was like, that was everything. Was everything. Being on MTV, like, especially as a dancer. Yeah. That was like, you made it, right? Big time. So I went from just being this college student that didn't even know I was even thinking about having a dance career or anything like that, to all of a sudden, I always say this way, like, I literally slid my head between Britney Spears' legs and got the close-up from the camera on MTV, and it was like, oh shit, I like this, you know? And so like later on that night, you watch the award show back and I get to see it, you know, and you see your face on TV and all that. And I said, I think I might want to try to do this, you know? So that was like my taste of the business, of the excitement around it and the hard work that it took, like being in the rehearsals and all that for that. And that was the first time I thought, maybe I want to try to have a career.
How old were you at that point?
I guess I was about 21.
That's the equivalent to being a professional athlete, right? I mean, at the end of the day, when you talk about a young man at 21 years old, you have no grip on life and long term. So
I had no grip. Zero.
Well, I mean, we're never going to get to the meat of the matter, because I kind of temper the expectations with people. At the end of the day, you know, to whom much is given, much is required. But now everyone's talking about the science of the male brain, 25 years old, not even fully settled. It makes sense that we're making tons of dumb decisions, right? So that's a heck of a early breakout when you think about maybe what it might take for some. I've heard of like Morgan Freeman. He doesn't break into the Hollywood until he's like 45. It's like, so when you talking about, that's a pretty nice launching pad, Britney Spears.
Yeah, and it was, I recognized how lucky I was to have that opportunity. Heck yeah. Because I knew so many dancers that had been in LA for 5 years grinding, taking class, auditioning, trying to get a break, and still not managing to get that bigger moment. Oof. And I got it without even really trying, which was awesome.
It is.
But that same kind of, lucky type of moment haunted me later on.
Okay. So we oftentimes talk about it, and I know that a lot of your story, it bleeds into the oversaturation. I've read some things, and of course we've had some great dialogue in the past. What was life like growing up for Dan Karaty? That was, was it stable? Was it volatile? Because oftentimes when you arrive at a place of success, we don't know what the formative process is that makes even a young man to aspire to do certain things. So was home stable? Was life stable? And what caused those those insecurities maybe as a young man where maybe the success started to crack open some of the challenges?
Yeah, I was actually a fortunate kid.
Good for you.
I had 2 great parents, 4 older brothers and sisters who took good care of me. I kind of had all of the things that I needed and wanted growing up. The one thing that I thought was awesome at the time that probably worked against me a little bit was that being the 5th of 5 kids. Sure. By the time my parents got to me, they were like, all right, listen, we're not going to chase you around. We're not watching over you, and watching your every move. Here's what you need to do. Yeah. You need to get good grades. Yep. You need to keep playing soccer. I was a soccer player. Nice. And you need to keep dancing at the studio. My parents owned a dance studio.
Oh, right? Snap. So this is built in.
Yeah. My parents were Broadway dancers way back in the day and stuff. And so I kind of grew up in that entertainment industry.
Nice.
But they laid those 3 rules out for me, right? Sure. You do these 3 things, you can do whatever you want.
Oh, God.
And
I love you, Mom and Dad. No.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, this is perfect, And again, fortunate, like school came pretty easy to me. Okay, so I got good grades. Yeah. I was captain of my soccer team, and I was a good dancer. I'm doing those 3 things. I'm going to party too. And I started partying.
At what age did you have your first drink, first drunken experience?
14.
Yeah, you and me both. 14.
I probably had my first drink like somewhere in 8th grade, something like that. But my first drunken experience at 14. Yeah. And blackout. Like just day one, I drank 2 blackout. Yeah. And I thought that's what you did. If I didn't black out or run out of alcohol, why am I doing this? That's the whole point of it.
Oh, man.
I had older brothers who had already done this. So my parents had already been down that road. They'd seen it. And it didn't affect what I was doing. It never affected my grades. Yep. Never affected my soccer play, me showing up at the dance studio, all those things. So it honestly never got questioned. I mean, I would come home and throw up in the toilet. My mom would rub my back. I was like, and there was no punishment for it because we had our agreement that I was going to do those things.
Everything's in line.
And I kept it in line.
You're my brother from another mother. Same type of deal. My mom would buy my alcohol. Her thought process was, I'd rather have them, drinking and smoking inside than out on the street. So we created a safe haven for it. I was the most popular kid, one of the most popular
kids. I bet, right? We're going to David's house.
No doubt. And obviously, we progressed beyond it. And I think when you get to the place where at what point in your career, right? And so now this is who Darren Karaty is. You're successful, wildly successful, but you got this hidden vice that you probably don't even know is truly a vice. Along the way, at what point did you start thinking about it, or was someone telling you about maybe you should curb this? Was it as you were rising throughout your levels of success?
No, unfortunately, no one ever questioned it.
No, never.
Not until I met my wife.
Man, well, I guess my girlfriend was the first one. She was a girlfriend at the time. Yeah, something different about her.
Yeah, I had this ability to. My drinking was going like this, but my career was going like this.
Wow.
At the same pace. And I developed a serious entitlement complex. I thought I deserve this. Look how great I'm doing. And I'm making more money. And I'm working with this star and that star. And I'm traveling the world and all these things. So no one said anything to me because I don't think anyone noticed anything. Wow. I still looked good. I was still at the gym, 6 a.m. every morning. I looked the part. I acted the part. I was still Mr. Reliability. It never changed. any of that. You know, I was never late, you know, and always got the job done and all of those things. So nobody blinked an eye at it.
That makes sense.
You know, and even myself, like when you said, did I notice like that it was a problem or anything? I didn't. I just thought I should be doing this. Well, I have every right to do it, so I should be.
In light of all the demands, the success, I'm meeting the deliverables, I've done what mommy and daddy asked.
Yeah.
we hitting all the boxes.
It's it. And you know, in hindsight, and I try not to look back too much and regret, but there are, God, what could have been.
Sure.
And what is are probably not even close. Right now, maybe I would have ended up going in a different direction if I had a clear mind. I don't know. Yep. But I built no relationships over the years because outside of work, drinking was the most important thing to me. Wow. So when we rapped on a gig, I didn't hang around. I wasn't hanging around to get to know you.
Yeah.
I wasn't going out for drinks with the crew to get to know them and build relationships. I wanted out of there, and I'm going to go find my drinking buddies, and we're going to get drunk.
Just getting loaded.
And so it's like I kept getting hired by reputation,
sure,
but not by relationship.
Wow.
Because I built no relationships, no long-lasting relationships.
Wow. Let's get into the weeds of it, because you actually, I mean, like, you talking about some of the most popular personalities and even popular shows, you know, like I believe you did some guest judging and things of that nature.
Yeah.
What would you say is the time where you're at the pinnacle of your success in your field in entertainment?
So I got hired to be one of the first judges on So You Think You Can Dance on Fox, right? And this is like one of those entitlement moments, right? So I'm choreographing and I'm dancing and I'm working with Justin Timberlake and Britney Spears and Jessica Simpson and people like that. But even I was kind of saying to myself, because like I said, I was not the best choreographer. And I knew that, right? But I'm like, so what's going to be the next move, whatever? And boom, I get hired by So You Think You Can Dance. Now I'm going to be an on-camera personality, right? So it's like that same thing. Just go moving along and everything keeps going.
Well, you know, this is one of my little sayings. I said, man, the devil can bless you, okay? Okay. The devil can bless you too. He rolled up on Jesus like, hey, man, you want the kingdoms?
Yeah. And this is when I said to you earlier about like things sort of maybe coming a little too easy.
Sure.
A lot of right place, right time, you know, just blessed moments of meeting the right people and who just kind of pulled me along. And so it's like this wave kept going and I just kept riding the wave. Gotcha. And so You Think You Can Dance, everyone thought it was going to be this one season flop, go away because no one's interested in dance, right? Yeah. Our first couple episodes, we're getting 10 million viewers. You know, it exploded. And so now all of a sudden I'm being recognized on the street. Yeah. And, you know, getting preference at clubs in LA and all this kind of stuff. Oh, boy. And I would be lying if I didn't say my head.
Oh, man.
It was just, you know, I thought I was something special.
Glory is the most addictive poison. I think it's just, you know, good old Lord of the Rings, all these little fun little movies they illustrate. It's just not healthy for us.
Yeah.
You know, I tell people I could take a drive-by, but I can never park my van in celebrity culture. You know? Yeah. I drive through and it's, now you're originally from New Jersey?
Yeah.
Know, what part?
New Jersey. Bergen County.
So listen, Jersey's the greatest, you know, just all the listeners out there, Jersey's the greatest. The reason why Dan was hired is because he's from Jersey. I mean, like, it's clear.
Oh, that's it. Jersey boy through and through, and they knew it.
Yeah, man. Now, there's no rivalry in relation to taxes from Bergen to Essex, but, you know, definitely, I think the two highest tax counties. But at the end of the day, well-rounded people. And I think that's probably what you represent is someone who's hardworking, well-rounded, reliable. That's hard to find in the marketplace, reality, you know, like, but, all right, so talk to me about what was the most painful, right? So even when we consider moments of success, you're kind of talking about your cadence and what made you successful. But what were some of the hiccups and disappointments maybe along the way? And I know that obviously, you know, your relationship with alcohol is tying you to this moment of, but what was some of the hidden failures, maybe the story that people didn't know that really allowed you to climb or ascend to some of that?
The failures as a career. Mm-hmm. I haven't talked about this before. But on the show, on So You Think You Can Dance, I was one of, and I'm comfortable saying this, I was one of the best judges on the show.
Excellent.
I think my journalism background helped me watch something, put it into words, and say it very clearly. And I was able to do that. I was able to take my dance background with my journalism background and use it. And that made me a good judge on the show. My choreography on that show was not good. I did not do the job that I was hired to do as a choreographer. And that started to eat away at me and eat away at my confidence. And I was seeing the other choreographers were doing on the show and watching what I was doing and saying to myself, I'm not rising to the occasion the way I need to be.
Man, this is good.
But what started to happen to me at that time was, instead of saying, after a crappy rehearsal and knowing it wasn't going to be good, instead of going home, renting rehearsal space and going in the room and working my ass off and figuring it out, I got out of rehearsal and I went to the bar.
Here it is.
And I would drink it away and I'll deal with it tomorrow.
Are you tired of losing your bets? Our sponsor, betting.us, is here to help. With expert analysis, up-to-date odds, and insider knowledge, our team of sports betting professionals will guide you to victory. Bet smarter and win bigger with betting.us. So that's so great, because we talk about self-awareness was always my superpower. You know, I can't say that, and I had this struggle up till 24 as well, but at the end of the day, the only thing that allowed me to create avenues of success was being aware of who I was. And so you have this moment, but you just kind of make the wrong shift, wrong response, wrong decision. I could rattle off, you already named a few, from the people that you've worked with, the level of success even as a judge. How did you and your wife come together? And what was the moment of true, like, man, she's right? Because that really is like a stop in time kind of moment. Because I think we could all remember the moment that it stopped.
You know, speaking to you and talking to you about your story, you figured it out a lot quicker than I did. Fortunately for you, unfortunately for myself.
I had a lot of powerful invisible help. You know, I was pretty honest.
I took a long run doing the things we were just talking about. And instead of figuring out how to solve my problems, just drinking them away and then walking away from the choreography career, instead of buckling down and I'm going to figure this out, just walking away.
Wow.
Luckily finding more TV jobs, and I kept the whole TV thing going, and I'm still doing the TV thing to this day.
Yeah.
But I met my wife 2 or 3 seasons into So You Think You Can Dance.
Gotcha.
And like, I mean, I was done from the first time we met. It was over.
I love hearing these stories. It never gets old when somebody finds a wife. It's like, I can tell you love your wife.
No, I was having lunch with a friend, and she was friends with him, and she walked in to say hello, and she said hello and walked to the bathroom, and I was like, yo, who's that girl? And he's like, leave her alone. She just got out of a relationship. And I was like, yeah, I can't do that. I can't do that.
Sorry, I cannot promise.
She came back to the table. I chatted her up for like 2 hours. And we went on a date a couple nights later, and we've been together ever since.
Fantastic.
But she, like 3 months in, started questioning my drinking. Just, I would have a particularly bad night. And the next morning she'd be like, what is that? What are you doing? That is not okay to drink like that. And being the entitled, manipulative guy that I was, I would show her all the fluff all around and look at the jobs and the people I'm working with, and I'm on TV.
Wow. So peacocking.
Yeah. And I was so manipulative that I would convince her that this was okay.
Yeah.
And just get her to change the subject, and we would move on. And she always said throughout all our years together, we've been together for almost 17 years now. Excellent. She said, the one thing that will break us up is the way you drink.
Wow.
And I just wouldn't change, and I would do whatever I had to prove to her, right?
That I didn't need to.
Yeah. Like, so
it's amazing.
Instead of looking inward and looking at myself and saying, hey, I got a problem.
Sure.
Everything was about, how am I going to prove to her? Right. So after a really bad few-day episode, at one point, after we had been together for a few years, she threatened to leave. I said, oh yeah, I'm totally fine with it. I'm going to stop drinking. And I ran the New York City Marathon, right? I trained for 6 months and I went and ran the marathon. But all to go, you see, You see, like to prove to her.
Just to prove.
Not to prove to me, to prove to her.
Yeah.
And then a month or two after I ran the marathon, I was drinking like I always was, And that never stopped. And it only got worse. And I told her, it'll change when we get married. It'll change when we have kids. It'll change when the kids are old enough to notice.
Jeez.
And it only got worse.
Obviously, I know you're sober today, and you have the Dan Karaty podcast, and this is essential to the theme. And at the end of the day, overcomers help people overcome. So this is who you are. That's why I love you. Like, so we share that common bond. It's so profound because so many people obviously struggle with just substance abuse. Period. Did you ever identify what the pain was? Right? Because typically we're usually masking some type of pain with any measure of substance, marijuana, cocaine, whatever our choice of drug, even sex. Any typical addiction usually is overriding a pain. Is that something that you ever found in your journey in recovery?
What I have found is that I never, ever talked about my feelings. And, when I told you that I grew up in this very loving, very supportive family,
Sure.
which I did, but we were very surface.
Got it.
We didn't talk about how you feeling. We talked about the Giants and the Yankees and politics, but we didn't talk about how you feeling today, like how you really feeling today.
How you really feeling.
Or, not how's your job, but like, what do you really want to do?
Yeah.
We never got into that.
Got it.
And I never realized that. And I had different disappointments or just upsetting relationships and different things throughout my life and moments in my career where I wasn't choreographing well, different things like that. But instead of ever discussing any of it with anyone, I just buried it. And I didn't realize I was burying it.
Yeah.
I had no idea.
Subconscious.
But that's what I was doing. And as I got older and different things started to rise up along the way, I didn't know how to handle anything because I didn't know how to talk about problems. When my wife would come to me to talk about a problem in our relationship, I thought she was nuts. I would look at her like, what is wrong with you? Everything is wonderful. Why can't you see that?
Hey, listen.
Because I didn't know how to talk about anything.
The funny thing about it, even when you just look at life, because it doesn't, now you're healthy and you probably still have some of the same dynamics in a healthy marriage. It's like, even when things are good, it's like, well, thank God for wives, right? At the end of the day, they digging.
Yes, they can.
They're human excavators of the soul. Okay.
Yes, they are.
No, but I totally get where you're at. In light of it, like, as she obviously brought you to that moment of decision, what was the day you had that last and you made that decision to, and I know it's a constant commitment over and over, but how long has it been? How do we celebrate victory continuously? And where does your passion moving forward as you're, continue to take that platform to serve others?
So my kids became my motivating factor.
Huge.
To get sober, right? It's like my poor wife asked me so many times to get sober. And for some reason, I wouldn't do it for her.
Yeah.
But my daughter recognizing how awful I looked and just how different I was acting and everything, that made me decide this is enough.
How old was she?
She was 9 years old at the time. She looked scared.
Yeah.
Scared for her dad. And that, I just felt wrong. Right? And I said, I can't do this to them. I was doing this to myself. I was doing it to my wife, but I can't do it to them.
Yeah.
I walked into the guest room. My wife was staying in the guest room at the time because she couldn't stand the sight of me or the smell of me for that matter. And I had that brief moment where I admitted, like, I can't figure this thing out and I need help. It was the first time I said that. And she had me in rehab 40 hours later.
What's her name?
Natasha.
We love you, Natasha.
Yeah. God, I don't know why that woman stayed with me, but she did.
We definitely got, obviously, like a lot of common. I said, my wife got me broke twice. I was a drunkard all through college. And there's something special about a special woman. Mm-hmm. Obviously, everybody's out there looking for the special woman, but when you're fortunate to get one, it's obviously life-changing. But obviously, she was clearly the anchor and that beautiful princess of yours.
She doesn't get enough credit, right? Because everyone loves to come up to me and say, man, you look great, or you're doing great, or I'm so proud of you, whatever.
Yeah.
She's been holding it down for God knows how long. I was her third child for a long time, and she was holding us together as a family. Yeah. And then I was gone for 31 days and she took care of everything. And then in my early recovery, it was still a lot on her.
Sure.
And she still gave me the space to be selfish, for lack of a better term, and focus on myself and what I had to do on a daily basis in the beginning to stay sober and stay on the right track. And she did that. And I realized, as I said, my kids were my motivating factor.
Excellent.
But I realized within 2 or 3 days in there, I started to recognize who I am.
Yeah.
I started to find that guy again. And I realized very quickly I wanted to be sober for me also.
Yeah, it's huge.
And sober for my wife. And just and sober in this life.
Yeah.
Because I've had everything around me. I've been surrounded by the love of my family.
Yeah.
But the love of my wife.
Yeah.
My kids. I've had everything. What was I out there looking for?
Man.
I don't know, but I was convinced that I needed that car and I needed to go on that vacation and I needed to live in that house. And I was living for all the wrong things.
Sure.
When I had everything I wanted right around me.
It's always so powerful because we see this lived out. And obviously everybody has to go on their own journey per se, but at the end of the day, the things that are true will always hold to be true. Everybody's looking for purpose, right, and peace. And, we find things typically to supplant what should be happening within, right? Mm-hmm. And I just know it's the timing of it all. My son, my firstborn son, he wasn't enough to change me from, stop drinking alcohol, but he was he was the biggest motivating factor in changing me from becoming an imbecile. Like, you have a child at 21 years old, you immediately become responsible for another human.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, wow, okay, right? And but it really just did take a coming to terms. Like when I got arrested on marijuana possession, and that was I need help, and fortunately, God was at the other side of my help, as well as a few other central people. When you think about not just this moment of overcoming, coming into sobriety, because it is a championship moment, man, because at the end of the day, you got to get life right. Mm-hmm. We're reaching for success here on Catch the Moment podcast. We're talking about the process. But at the end of the day, if we don't get life right and begin to live from within, then what is it? There's no fulfillment, right?
Yeah.
So what are some of the values that not only gained you success, but what are some of the values that you shape your life around today that makes it more meaningful?
I was searching before I went in to rehab. I had been searching for what I don't really know.
Sure.
But I felt lost. And my oldest brother is a very spiritual man.
Okay.
And I started calling him, asking him questions, just about anything.
Yeah.
What am I doing here? Why am I here?
Sure.
Why do I have this? What do I want out of my life? How am I supposed to be a dad? I was trying to play God to my kids.
Yep.
Right? And thought I could give them everything.
Sure.
And when I went to rehab on that first night, I laid in bed and I just looked up and I just said, I give up.
Wow.
I give up. And different people have different reactions to something like this.
Sure.
But I went to sleep that night and I woke up the next morning the most carefree I had been since I was a kid.
True surrender.
And I didn't even know what to make of it, other than I felt great.
Felt that burden off.
And I started to recognize that not only do I not have to control everything around me, that I don't have control of everything around me.
Well, I hope they heard that one clear. Go ahead and say that one more time.
Yeah.
Not only do you don't have to, but you can't, right?
Exactly. And that was just, it's not how I looked at life for 25 years.
Wow. It's
It's
powerful.
And when I came home, what I should be doing for my family, trying to lead by example.
Sure.
And trying to show my kids.
Yep.
Instead of tell my kids.
Yeah.
Or do for my kids.
Yep.
Right? It's changed everything.
Man,
it's changed everything for me.
You're a huge victor because, like I said, when we talk about our stories, they're lived out, right? And I think obviously I'm a half a holy wacko, but 7 kids. I'm living my life out in front of my kids in a way where it's speaking to them about what I believe to be true, right? And it's kind of what we're alluding to, something, the innocence of a child and the vulnerability of a child really puts you in a position of considering your ways. If you're a fairly decent human, right? I know we got so much going on in this crazy world, but it's done the same for me. I said the gift of having a family has positioned me to reflect on everything, every decision, because I know that it's not isolated. Every decision I make, it affects people. Mm-hmm. So, like your story is just kind of oozing that maturity process, but also because real sobriety is having the clarity of mind and the peace of mind that gives you peace, true peace from within, and not trying to masquerade and find all the trinkets of the world.
Yeah.
So in light of kind of arriving to these conclusions, also continue to maintain these spaces of influence and impact in entertainment and culture, what would you say is your defining moment?
Oh, man. My defining moment.
Defining moment. If in your own choice in any sphere of influence.
I think by my second or third day home from rehab, before my kids went to bed, I brought my wife into their room and I sat down with my kids and talked for a few minutes and then prayed with them. Awesome. Now, praying is not something I know how to do or do particularly well. And I was always even around like a Thanksgiving table,
sure,
very uncomfortable with, because I thought there was something I was supposed to say or a way to do it. And I was so uncomfortable with all of it. And just going in there, being vulnerable to my kids, talking about where I just was at that moment now, back home with them and with my wife and with them, and then praying with them, I felt like set the tone for how we're going to try to do things moving forward in our house. And I think it set the tone for me and for my wife, because she didn't know who was coming home from rehab, right?
That's a powerful statement right there. As you said, I got chills because it's the other side that, as you said, she's your hero, because it's the other side of what makes life really work. Someone who believes in you. She didn't know who was coming home.
No. You talk about that leap of faith that different people take. My wife has taken a leap of faith for me like 6 times, and it's like, and this final time was when I came home from rehab and trusting that he's going to get it this time. Yeah. It's going to work this time.
Yeah. Everything about your journey, because it's so, obviously just, us showing each other a little bit of love on social media. And, like I said, the intersection of sports and entertainment is kind of reaching its all-time high. But when you get a chance to meet real people, real time, real stories, real impact, and it's all doubling over, just to encourage you. And there's so much redemptive purpose even in it all, and you're walking in it. And I think, that's no surprise to God at the end of the day. But even more so, I just feel encouraged to let you know that there's nothing lost in the past. There's going to be a restoration of time, and your story's going to continue to, just resolve. What are you most excited about moving forward?
It's stuff like this.
Yeah.
I was so disconnected from the world.
Sure.
I lived in a very lonely place, and avoided everyone and avoided every conversation possible. I did not want to talk to anyone in fear that you might see the real me, right? And since being sober, I have connected with so many people and have real conversations with them. Yeah, about sports and politics, but about life and about our kids and about how we feel and about our faith and about whatever it may be. And just to continue to connect and see how much good there is out in the world.
Sure.
You know, that feels fantastic. And I feel like I've grown so much in just these 2 years.
Amazing.
That I can't imagine where it's going to go.
I love that you say that. And I know that feeling of coming into a new life, right? So it's like, as you're sharing with it, what has been the great, like, whether it's a relationship, an experience, since you've come into this new life of being receptive, aware, vulnerable, what has been either a relationship or an experience that you just been like overwhelmed by? Like, you know what? I never imagined I'd be sitting here with this person doing this.
It sounds corny, but it's like this. It's, I mean,
that's the easy way out, Dan.
No, but
I got you, brother.
No, you know,
Appreciate
I mean, every day I have one, you know, where I'm just driving in the car with my kids.
Yeah.
And when I used to drive in the car with the kids, I'm already playing ahead, looking at the clock. What time do they get dropped off? What time does this? What time is it? So that I can get my drink in.
Yeah.
Right? That's all I thought about.
Wow.
Now I actually have real conversations with my kids.
So amazing.
And they're so freaking fun. It's the best. But when I was at the Super Bowl,
sure,
right? Luckily my brother-in-law doesn't drink, right? So I didn't get to drink that much. And so I remember that game clear as day, which I can't say for a lot of the games. And being in that kind of moment and watching a guy like you have that kind of moment, I never in a million years would expect that I could sit at a table and have a conversation. And I wouldn't have until 2 years ago when I got sober. Amazing. It wasn't an option for me because, one, I wouldn't have been seeking it out.
Sure.
And I just wouldn't have allowed things to align for it to happen.
Old Mr. Reliable, man, I think it's coming to its full its full maturity, man. I think number one, what I love about your story as an overcomer is who you are that made you successful will always ring true, right? And I know how it feels to kind of be chosen, right? It's like being a pickup game on a basketball court, you know. And I think everyone has a hard time when people just are chosen. Mm-hmm. And although it does leave people exposed and sometimes left out, I think that's the whole idea, is that we're moving into the spaces wherever God will find us, whatever, you know, the path will lead, where we can find that place where we're chosen and we enter into peace and purpose. And it looks like Dan Karaty, old Mr. Reliable, is moving into it, man. So, man, your story continues to inspire. And I'm just thrilled to continue to nurture a relationship. Just give us one last plug where we can catch you. What are you doing right now so that we can all be up to date on you know, the exciting things that you're brewing into?
I mean, my favorite thing that I do right now is my podcast, Dan Karaty, if I'm being honest. Just to get to sit and know people and have conversations and let them share their stories as well. And then I have a book coming out as well in September. It'll be out, called If I'm Being Honest also.
You got to hook me up with your publishers.
All right, man.
I got to, you know, I'm out here in these streets. I got Well, listen, make sure you check out Dan Karaty on social. Check out the podcast. Check out my episode. We had a blast. I could have talked to this dude for 3 hours. Could talk to him for another 3 hours. But we're gonna sign out today, man. Thank you just for being you. Authentic, wholly given, for being an overcomer and a champion for so many people in this current day, because we all need it.
Absolutely, man. Thank you. Just appreciate the friendship and the time and the conversation.
Just getting started.
Yeah, man.